Hey there, everybody. Franklin Taggart here with the virtual coffee break. I'm actually still on my first cup for this morning. Isn't that great? So what that means is that I'm getting an earlier start than usual, and I have the golden tones of a 4-day cold going on with my vocals. So I'm hoping that I'm not hoarse by the end of this thing. What's on my mind this morning is when the tool becomes a barrier or when it becomes an obstacle. We could also substitute technique for tool. There are a couple of things that have come up recently where I've had people who have been working really hard on developing marketing funnels. And the funnels, themselves may or may not have been effective. But I think one of the things that happened is that in the focus on the funnel, they lost sight of the person on the other end. And as a result, the funnel really wasn't, I don't think it worked for them because they really forgot who they were trying to reach and who they were talking to and what they were trying to say. And I feel like that's sometimes the case when we're learning new things about like automation and about like just marketing tools and techniques and tactics. Very often we get so focused on the tool, the technique, or the tactic that we forget about the person on the receiving end. And then it becomes a problem. It's like we wonder why the tools and things don't work. Well, what's happened is that we've created so much energy around the tool that it's kind of become a barrier between us and the person that we actually want to have a human relationship with. And so one of the things that I look at is like, I look at my friend Jess Kotzer and I look at how well she automates and how flawlessly that seems to come out. And one of the things that I suspect about Jess, and we'll be talking about this in an upcoming podcast, is, how it is that she maintains the humanity of the contact while, automating both the construction and the delivery of it. I think that there's a special skill there that we all have to develop, especially when it comes to marketing funnels. Now, I've been taking the Interact Quiz Mastermind this week. Been a great bunch of classes, and because of the cold, I just haven't had a chance to finish all 6 of the sessions that they had. But one of the things that I was struck by, Shanti Zach gave 2 classes, and then Don Petrin gave another. And Shanti and Don are 2 of my favorite people in marketing and just in life. I really enjoy their podcast, The Entrepreneur's Ecosystem. But one of the things that I really gathered from both of them is the importance of kind of keeping your client or your audience or your customer in mind as you construct. They were specifically talking about the beginning of a quiz funnel, where you're creating the questions and you're creating the responses that are actually going to mean something to the person on the other end and not just drive your agenda. So that was another thing that I was looking at, is that it feels like to me that too often we make our marketing materials drive our agenda a little too hard. And again, we forget that there is a human on the receiving end, and they have a reaction to what we're putting out there. Now, I've tried a lot of things and I've failed at a lot of things. But one of the things that I'm looking at is all of the different ways that I've put marketing out there that is actually may have served to shut people down rather than to open their minds to a possibility. And I think one of the reasons that happens a lot of times is that the marketing is too much of a rush to get to the end goal, rather than to be in the process of developing the relationship step by step by step. And I'm getting ready to go to Kat Stancik's mixer this morning. And one of the things that Kat is really all about is helping people to define a person's buying style. And when she talked to me, she said, your buying style is very easy to understand. She says, you're a connector. And she said, you have to be really well connected before you're ready to buy from somebody. And I say, for the most part, that's true. The only other time that I find that I'm willing to buy is when I see a product that I know that I need. And it's like, I don't have a relationship with the person, but I know that I need it and I need it right now. Usually those purchases I tend to trust. But otherwise, especially if it comes to something like coaching, I have to, it's like some of the coaches that I've hired, I've actually kind of known them and been in their circles for years before I engage with them as a coach. And that's just the way that I operate. It's okay. It's just like, but if they were to come and put a lot of pressure on me to coach with them, or if they were to send me emails every day saying, hire me, hire me, hire me, hire me, I'd probably unsubscribe from their list. In that case, the tool has become a barrier between us, and it served to shut things down rather than to open things up. So that's the question that I would ask today. Are the things that you're putting out about your business, your product, your service, your the creative work that you've done, are the things that you're putting out shutting things down between you and the people on the other end? Or are they opening people's curiosity and making them more interested in what's going on? I really feel like that's where we've got to go, and we've got to maybe take the emphasis off the tools and the tactics and remember that what we're really trying to build here, or what we're trying to emulate at a minimum, is a genuine human relationship. Now, again, I'm going to use the word emulate with a ton of salt, not just a grain, because I really feel like authentic human relationships are what our businesses are made of. And the best funnels lead in that direction. There are other funnels that I think are really good emulations of human relationships, but they're not necessarily the real authentic thing. Oh, that's a lot going on in my head this morning for this early, and still with a cold. Isn't that weird? I'm curious, though. I really feel like that, for the most part, that the way that I've started to operate, I don't know. I know that I've talked about human design in brief in the past few months, but that manifesting generator with the solar plexus energy center 1-3, whatever it is, that combination, it's interesting for me to try to shift my marketing around to build the relationship coming from that understanding. And so what's happened is that I feel like that I've become a whole lot less. I don't feel like that I'm trying to put pressure on anyone at this point. I am trying to be sensitive to myself and to them as we go, and I am trying to actually be in more of a responsive rather than initiating role when it comes to marketing. Now, that's been a complete shift, because in the past, my main MO has been to try and make things happen. And quite honestly, that's been one of the biggest sources of frustration in my business, is trying to make things happen. But when I go out into the world and I find myself in places where I can authentically respond to people where they are about what they need, all of a sudden, the relationships that I need to support my business are starting to form. And a good example of that is in some of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of. Instead of going in there and just giving advice to everybody, I try to start conversations with people about the questions that they have, because they come with legitimate questions and they're not afraid to ask them in those contexts. Instead of trying to deliver a pat answer as advice, or the standard answer that everybody has already heard 100 times, I really try to understand them before I respond. And what I found is that I've gotten a lot more people coming around to my coaching page as a result of that. Ultimately, they may become clients. I've had a few that have actually signed on, But just shifting over into that responsive mode instead of the initiating mode has been a very interesting experiment for me. And it's one that I'm going to be looking into a lot more. I've got an interview coming up next week with Danielle Gardner. Danielle Gardner is one of the people that I've met just in the last year that has really had a deep impact on me and the way that I think about doing business. She's the one who wrote the book Quiet Marketing. And we're going to be talking a lot about in that conversation about regulating the nervous system, because there are a lot of folks like us who are fairly sensitive, highly sensitive people. And one of the things that we've started to recognize is that there's some marketing tools and tactics out there that actually have a traumatic impact on us. And we end up having to really guard ourselves against what happens with that. So I'm excited about that conversation. That episode will be coming up and be released in the next few weeks. But if you haven't read Danielle's book, Quiet Marketing, I'm going to encourage you to check that out. So those are some thoughts for today. It's like, the tools and the tactics are wonderful things, but we also need to understand that we want them to work in a way that actually open the door for relationships with people. We don't want them to shut the relationships down. And so I think we need to really use that as the bar. Is this really serving to create the relationships that I want with the customers that I want to reach, the audience that I want to serve with my creativity? Are those doors being opened by the things that I'm doing? So that's all that I've got to say this morning. I, again, appreciate all of the concern and support with going through this cold this week. I'm feeling like I'm on the other side of it energetically. I've just got to get rid of the congestion and the cough. But thank you, as always, for your time and your attention. And, one of the things that I haven't asked for a lot here is for you to share this, this, whatever you call it. For some of you, you're watching it as a video. For some of you, you're listening as a podcast. For some of you, you may be reading as a blog. I appreciate shares and referrals. And, I worked hard on this channel on YouTube, and I just reached the 100 subscriber milestone. And I think I opened the page in 2017. So slow growth, this is about my pace. This is about my speed. But I do appreciate it when you share these things with other people that you think might be interested. As always, your attention and your time are my greatest gifts, and I appreciate them deeply. I will be back again tomorrow with yet another coffee break. We'll get back to our regular routine, I think, next week with a longer episode on Friday. Till tomorrow, have a good whatever it is where you are. So long.